Ladies and guys who want to hear all about hitting on girls in public. Andy here, author of the best Tinder guide on the internet. This is the Kill Your Inner Loser podcast, and this is a special one. So let's fucking go. This is a roundtable discussion, the first roundtable discussion. I might do a couple of these. And I sat down with a bunch of guys who have already been hitting on girls during the daytime, cold approaching, day gaming, all that good stuff. And I specifically only had guys on here who've already gotten laid at least once, if not multiple times. I myself have already gotten laid multiple times. I also fed off the experience of some of my old friends who'd gotten laid quite a bit. And we sort of answered a bunch of your different questions. We answered questions on, how to go out and actually start approaching, whether or not it makes you a better man, whether or not we think, approaching is better than Tinder, a bunch of different questions. So really good roundtable discussion. Absolutely recommend listening to this. The whole thing is like straight fucking fire, if I'm going to be honest. And listen through to the end while we all tell you why we're better than you. Only joking, maybe not joking. Enjoy. Off we go. Asks, do you guys make a conscious effort to play with vocal, tonality, body language, or facial expressions? Do you do any outer game stuff like push or pull? Or is it just authentic, normal guy numbers game? So Brandon, feel free to jump in and answer that question first.
Yeah, so I did at the start, it was hardcore. I did a lot of cold calling, sales, and tonality is a really big deal there. So my initial thought was tonality must matter in the cold approach too. But, after doing it 250 times and getting rejected a lot, you kind of realize, okay, maybe it doesn't matter, because there's some days where my tonality sucks and I get a ton of numbers, and other times where I'm rocking it and nothing happens. So what I've moved towards now is just making sure I'm in a good mindset.
Yep.
And that just means I'm going out there to not impress girls. I'm going out there to find a girl. I didn't even find a girl just to get laid. That's kind of been my mindset shift. So tonality is secondary to that. And the difference, because I think that's kind of theoretical, in practice, the difference is actually that when I'm talking to a girl, it's not about making her smile or anything like that. Great if she smiles, whatever, but that's secondary. It's more I'm kind of aggressive. I'm kind of give me your phone number, right? And I almost make the decision for her. The last phone number I got, she was oh, I don't know, I'm really busy, and I just put my phone in her hand and said, put your info in. And so there, that wasn't oh, hey, how's it going? It's so nice to meet you. That wasn't it at all. It was just hey, how's it going? And then when she was, it's just different. It was very forward. Sure. Push and pull, no. I just wing it. The only thing I don't wing is that I say, hey, my name's Brent. I thought you were cute. I don't wing that. And then I also don't wing how I go for the number. It's usually, let's go for coffee sometime. What's your phone number? And then if she hesitates, before she can make a decision, I put my phone in her hand.
Sure.
Everything else, I win 100%. Everything else, there's no tactics, nothing. I'm just saying whatever the fuck I feel like. Yeah.
Jason, do you play with vocal, tonality, body language, facial expressions, etc.?
So I feel like I was really obsessed with this when I didn't really do a lot of approaches. The first 20 or so, I was individual ones, I was overanalyzing things, but then I realized that it really I was obsessed with my feet and body has to face, or I have to make some weird unblinking eye contact, and I needed to put my head up in a 15-degree tilt and stuff like that. But after a while, it just felt you're not gonna be able to maintain that for the rest of even for a month or 2 months. You just are I just want to be myself, and honestly I've been the most satisfied and happy with that, and I feel I'm proud of it instead of being oh, I did something wrong. I feel that that kind of thing forces you into oh, it must have been something that I did that was my rejection.
Yeah, that's the problem with obsessing about, because this question is basically saying, should I obsess about my vocal tonality, body language, facial expressions so that I can get more results? That's the question. And as you just said, when you obsess about this stuff, anytime you get rejected, you'll think, maybe it was that I wasn't alpha enough, or my body language wasn't good enough, or maybe I didn't speak with a deep enough voice, or it, and that can be good. I see the benefit in saying I could have done better, sure, but we are playing a lottery. You are literally playing a numbers game. You cannot expect to get every single girl. And when you stray too far into this territory, you get to a point where, like you said, you just beat yourself up anytime you get a rejection because you're like, oh, well, I didn't do a good enough job. And at the end of the day, it's like, just do a decent job and play the fucking numbers game. Feel free to jump back in, Jason, if you got more to say.
So like there is a couple things that you should be doing if you're not doing it a lot. Like I feel like I was very soft-spoken when I'm starting. I'm still working on this. So like being loud and making sure that you're heard and you're not like somehow like embarrassed to talk to her. I mean, you can't, you're gonna get rid of this the more you do it, but then like the more you do it, you're gonna, you know, figure out that you have to be loud and you have to be forward.
Yes.
And then but yeah, those two are the only biggest things really.
Yeah, you figure it out as you go along. Devin, jump in.
Yeah, I feel like it comes with inexperience with asking these questions. Like in the beginning, I thought a lot about these things. It's like, you know, what do I wear? Like, what if like my glasses are like, you know, shouldn't like glasses or some shit like that. But then I've had approaches where I'm like, hey, I got to take a piss. Like, let me get your number. And then she's like, oh no, thanks, but you're really cute. And I'm like, okay. So like, that was a good interaction, but I literally said I had to take a piss. Like I was vulgar, like, you know, it didn't really matter. And yeah, just with more volume, you kind of realize that the responses are all really similar. It just depends on how they're acting in the moment. Cause like, there's so many different things that affect like their emotional state or like their mental state, you know, like if you get a text like 5 minutes before you approach them, like that makes a huge difference, but you don't know any of that stuff. So it's just really, like you said, a numbers game, doing it over and over, and just really getting the numbers in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In terms of my answer, I actually have a slightly different answer here. Have I ever played with vocal tonality, body language, facial expressions? Abso-fucking-lutely. I am someone that is obsessed with experimentation, trying different stuff. I love seeing what happens if I try something weird. I'm a very goofy guy. I'm a very silly guy. So I have fucked around with a million different things. I have tried walking up to girls and just saying, hey, and then a big fucking smile on my face, and I do nothing but smile. For like 15 seconds, I keep that smile, looking at her. And every girl's like, why are you smiling? Why are you smiling at me? And I just keep smiling. And then after like 20 or 30 seconds, I'll be like, you're really cute. And I'll just keep smiling and nothing else. I've tried that. I've tried walking up and saying, you're fucking sexy. Holy fuck, you are so fucking sexy. Like I have a heart on in my fucking pants. I've tried that. I've tried being soft. I've tried being sweet. I've tried being super fucking alpha male and aggressive. I've tried a lower voice. And the thing that I will say is, guess what, guys? It all fucking works. Now, it may work to a slightly different extent depending on how you feel that day, how well you can do one of those things, how, you know, how much it fits your personality. But at the end of the day, it all fucking works. So what I would say is, feel free to experiment with this shit, dude. Like, feel free to experiment with it when you are playing the numbers game. You don't get to say, what's the perfect thing that I should do? Hey, guys, can you please tell me the exact perfect thing I should do first? No. Go out and play the numbers game. When you are hitting on girls already, then you can fuck around with this stuff. But hitting on girls has to come first. Playing the numbers game has to come first. Self-improvement, of course, has to come first. You don't get to ask these questions if you're not out there already talking to, let's say, 30 girls a week, 50 girls a week. If you're not already playing the numbers game fairly hard, and that's a baseline, by the way. 30 a week is like a decent amount. It's not an amazing amount. If you're not at least starting with that baseline, don't ask these questions. Because these questions are you procrastinating, going out and playing the numbers game. You're basically saying, if I can get the perfect routines and the perfect body language, and if I can do everything perfect, I won't get rejected as much. And it's like, I'm sorry, at the start, you have to give yourself permission to suck. You fucking suck at this stuff because you've never done it. There is no perfect vocal tonality that we could tell you. Even if we did, you won't get it correct because you haven't done it before. You haven't practiced. The only way to practice is to go out there and fuck it up. So you're trying to avoid questions like these. You know, Devin, you said it. These are kind of newbie questions. You can tell that the person hasn't, and nothing against you, dude, person asking this question. You can tell the person hasn't gone out and tried it a lot Because when you go out and try it a lot, you realize, oh, I suck, but I'll get better. You see slow improvements, you see gradual improvements. You realize none of this really matters that much. And the answer will be, as Jason said, you fuck around with it a little bit and you find out what works for you. Like, what you do will be different to me. Jump in, Devin.
Yeah, I'd also like to say, like, with experimenting with a bunch of different things, it also kind of selects the different women that will be, like, into you. Like, if you're aggressive towards one woman, she won't like you, but another one will. Or if you're, like, a sweetheart to another girl might think you're a cuck. You know, it's like, what you do doesn't, it only changes the type of women that will be into you. There will always be some sort of girl that's into you for the way that you act.
Correct. Unless you're doing something utterly fucking retarded, like you take a shit and you say, hey, you shit in your hand, you say, hey, I just shit in my hand, would you like to go out with me? Yeah, that probably will never work. Although with 4 billion women on the planet, there might be one who's like, I really respect your, I respect that. I respect your courageousness. You're wacky. You're something new. Sure. Let me come and sit on your face. There'll be some chick who's into like a scat fetish or something. All right. Next question. By the way, guys, don't do that. Sam J says, a question I want to ask is, what is the absolute worst reaction any of you got from a girl you approached, or even just other people around watching? I want to jump in super quick and say other people watching is something that you only care about at the start when you haven't done it a lot. When you do it a lot, you're like, I don't give a fuck if people watch. Like, fuck them. They're all newbies. They're all fucking normies. Like, what do I give a shit if some normie fucking thinks that I'm doing something weird? You also get good reactions from people watching. You get a couple of those. I've had old women staring at me and smiling and giving me a thumbs up when they hear me telling a girl that she's cute. I've had enough guys at this point, like 5 guys, come up to me and just be like, bro, we just hitting on that girl? And I go, yeah. And they're like, and they'll fist bump me. I've had guys get my Facebook and be like, bro, can you teach me how to do this? So when you get enough good reactions from people watching you and enough good reactions from the girls themselves, you stop caring about worst reactions. But if you want to hear my worst reaction, it was a girl telling me to fuck off, and I was like taken aback, and I was like, no, you fuck off. And then she's like, no, you fuck off. And it was like this like childish, you fuck off, no, you fuck off, no, you fuck off. And then she walks away. What does it even matter? It was awkward for a little bit, but what does it matter? So Brandon, jump in.
Yeah, so I think this question is actually just approach anxiety.
Yes.
First and foremost, let's say that. Because yeah, it's anxiety about how it goes. Right? Like, will I get a good reaction? Will I get a bad reaction? So I'll answer the question, but I also want to say, so like pretty much always it's either good or neutral. In fact, it's really rare that it's a bad reaction. It's like extremely rare. Like I'd really have to think about it and like try and find where I got a bad reaction last time. It almost never happens. So as far as worst reactions, her approach, it was actually a mom telling me to get away from her daughter. That happened. Honestly, I didn't care at that point because that was actually just after I finished the approach anxiety program. So it's like, okay, whatever. Like, honestly, that was actually my thought. It was just like, okay, cool. It was like, that makes for a good story. And then the worst reaction by far was during the approach anxiety program. It was, so it's one where the girl has to give you a high five. Mm-hmm. And it was at a Starbucks and it was people waiting for their coffee to come. There was probably about 20 people waiting or so. Like it was quite a lot. So I went up to the girl and I said, hey, you're cute. Give me a high five. And then she wouldn't give me a high five. And like, it was fucking like, probably like 3-4 minutes where I had my hand up and she wasn't doing it. And then I just said, look, you're embarrassing yourself. Like everybody's watching us. And then she flipped out. She said, no, you're embarrassing yourself. And she started swearing at me. Like she wanted me to get lost. And then I started swearing at her too. So this was in front of like 20 silent people. So I'd say, anyway, that's how it went. And then I left, right? I was probably, like I was angry about that for probably like 20 minutes or so, and then I went back to normal. So even that isn't so bad. But I will say, because I had such a bad reaction like that, like I think that's probably a lot of people's like nightmare. It's just like lots of people watching and like girls start swearing at you. Because I had that, it makes everything easier.
Yes. Actually,
like everything's now easier because it's like a bad reaction where the girl's like, fuck off. It's like, okay, whatever, you know, it got so much worse and I've gotten over that. So that's my answer. It's AA, like that's AA speaking, and even when it's bad, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, these questions are generally a fear of the unknown. You're like, what horrible thing could happen? And you don't even think about what that would actually be like in the moment. But when you're in the moment, you realize, oh shit, this isn't that bad. And you get over it and the world keeps on turning, and you realize like, I just had a generalized fear of like the fear of the unknown. It's not an actual fear of like, what happens if a girl tells me to fuck off? That's not that scary. But you're just afraid that like something bad will happen. And as I said, when that does happen, you just kind of roll with the punches. You realize it's not that scary. So, Jason, jump in. What's your worst reaction, and anything you want to add to what Brandon said?
Yeah, like the conclusion is like only experience will prepare you for bad reactions per se. I guess my worst reaction was I hit on a lady who was like a lot older than I thought. She was like 35 or something like that, and she had like sunglasses on, and I was like, hey, you're cute, are you single? And she was like, are you kidding me? And like stared at me for like 10 seconds and told me to get lost, like in front of like park benches with people like just enjoying their Sunday afternoons. But you know, it wasn't that bad. Like it did sting for a little bit, but I feel like I think it's better than being completely ignored, in my opinion.
Yeah. Devin.
It was like probably, like Brandon said, it's really rare. I mean, so far now I've maybe done 500-600 approaches or something like that, cold approaches, and only one of them was memorable enough to call it a bad reaction. And we've all done quotes because it's bad. It's not bad.
It's not even that bad.
Yeah. It's not. I was like, this girl was like at least like 100 feet down the street. So I kind of like ran behind her to catch up and then walked next to her. And as she turned around, I like was like, hey, she's like, back the fuck up. Just seriously, leave me the fuck alone. And I'm like, okay, bye. And then I turned around. And like, as I was turning around, I'm like kind of laughing to myself, because in my head, I'm like, man, like she's probably had a bad day. Like, what a terrible life to live that you're so like sad or unhappy that you can't just talk to a stranger, you know? So it wasn't really a bad reaction per se. And then like, it was just like amusing to me. And I think that comes with like volume too, because like you see all of the spectrum, and like that's bad. And then on the good end, you know, like maybe 2 seconds before some girl called you cute, you had a really great talk. Like, you know, it's all like, I don't know, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. This question, I always like to look at people's intent behind their question. It's probably, I would say, if I can brag a little, probably my greatest strength as a coach is that I will almost ignore the question the person's asking. Jason can attest to this. I just don't answer half his questions when we do a coaching call. I will ignore the question and try and figure out what you were actually trying to ask, that like what your subconscious was trying to ask. And so this guy isn't really saying like, what's the worst reaction? What he's really saying is, if I go and approach, is something bad going to happen? A girl's going to tear my head off. Is it going to be scary? Is it going to be a nightmare? And the answer is like, no. 99.999% of the reactions will be, as Brandon said, neutral or positive. And when we say neutral, she'll just be like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And then you're like, okay. Or she's just like, no, thank you. Or she just ignores you. That's like a neutral reaction. That's 99.9% of the reactions. The bad ones are so fucking rare that, as Devin said, because you remember all the good ones, this bad one is like, almost like, man, what's happening in her life? I hope she's okay. And the further along you get with this shit, you almost develop a bit of empathy where you're like, oh, she's just probably having a shit day. That doesn't mean you go like crazy empathetic, but you're at least like, oh, she's probably just having a bad day. Poor thing. I hope she feels better. Or she's a psycho, or like whatever it is. You kind of just move on from it. You don't care so much that this bad thing happened, because you don't take it personally, because you realize 99.9% of the other reactions were neutral or good. And so this girl, it's not even about me. Like you, Devin, in that story, it's not that you ran up to her. It's not you hitting on her that made her say, back the fuck off. She just was probably having a shit day. Her boyfriend broke up with her. Maybe she doesn't like men, or she doesn't like strangers, or she got raped, or like something happened that makes her not want to talk to a stranger. And so it's not you. You stop taking I did a podcast called A Rejection of Your Offer is Not a Rejection of You. And basically what I said is the real game changer that comes when you approach a lot of women is you get to a point where you realize they're not turning me down necessarily. They don't want to have sex with a stranger that just hit on them, or they don't want a person to hit on them. It isn't necessarily me, or maybe they're just having a bad day. They're just turning down my offer, not me as a human being. Jason, jump in.
I had an interesting like thought the other day perspective, because like I'm in New York City, like you see homeless people everywhere, like on the subway, and I was like, the worst reactions I get is probably nothing compared to like the reactions that the homeless people get, right?
Yeah.
And especially, and their livelihood or their basically survival basically depends on it. So I'm just like, it's kind of arrogant of me to think that, you know, this is the worst that could happen to me, and you really get over it quickly.
Yeah, that's actually a decent technique. You could use that technique when you go out. You could think like, what would a homeless person do? And I used to do something similar where you think like, what would someone who's literally starving right now do? They wouldn't be like, oh, this approach anxiety. Oh my God. They'd be like, hey, excuse me, I need some money. And so I used to have a similar mindset when I would hit on girls. I would say, but the technique I would use is, I did it for the AA drills. If I was late for an appointment and I didn't have my phone or my watch, but I needed to know how late I was for the appointment, like I would just stop someone immediately and say, hey, real quick, what's the time? What's the time? Tell me, what's the time? What's the time? I would be like, I would do whatever it fucking took to get that time. You're not telling me that time. I need it. And so I would use the same sort of technique with women. I'd be like, what happens if someone had a gun to my head and I need to get her phone number? What would I fucking do? And it's like, I will do whatever it takes. And yeah, fine. You can't make her give you a phone number, but you try a hell of a lot harder when you have that mindset of like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes. I need this phone number. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to actually hit on her. And that can push you over that hump of like, oh, but I have approach anxiety. I don't want to talk to her. It's like, but I have to. I need a fucking phone number. I got to go hit on her. So next question. I think this one's going to be just mostly for me, but you guys can jump in. Adam says, question for Andy. And you guys can probably answer because you might have friends who've done something like this, or maybe you guys have influenced friends. So have you ever seen someone get comfortable with approaching girls by just jumping into it without doing the AA program? Yes, absolutely. Jason right here is a good example of that. Half the guys in my group coaching program, because it's a 12-week program, they only have 12 weeks with me. We don't really have time for the AA program. So I'm like, I'm going to make you talk to girls right now. And you're paying big money to be here, so you're going to talk to girls right now. There's no discussion on that. So yes, absolutely. I've gotten a lot of guys to skip the AA program. Simon, playtime is over. He skipped it. A bunch of people have like skipped the AA program. Do I think that the AA program is like worth doing? Absolutely, sure. As for which one do I think you should do, which one is more important, I go back and forth on that. Just because the AA program did change my life and I've seen all the results that came from that. But then again, I've seen the people that just jumped in and almost didn't need the program, but they might have still benefited from it. So I don't really have an opinion either way. I really don't think it matters either way, because if you do the AA program, you're only spending like 3 months doing it. That's not a big chunk out of your life. But I can see the benefit in if you can jump into it like Jason has. Jason does like fucking 100 approaches a week at this point. So I don't think he needs the AA program. Brandon, jump in.
Yeah, so I don't know. I could say a lot. I think personally doing the AA program was probably the best decision I've made over the last 5 years. And that's not hyperbolic. Like, I actually really mean that. It was actually that big a difference. I think people asking that are just saying, like, I don't want to commit to the time. It's 3 months. It's quite a long time. So I've seen both sides of it. And I know you have too, Andy, where somebody takes forever to be able to approach girls, and it's longer than 3 months.
Yes.
Devin and I, probably after a week of doing the AA program, were able to talk to 40 girls in a day.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a deal to do that. And that wasn't like some super like crazy day. It was just like, we're able to do that. And that was because of the AA program. But I've seen plenty of people not do the AA program. So I think if you're the kind of person who needs structure and like, you know, you set a lot of goals, but you get lost 2 months into it and like you're not working on your goals as much as when you first started, you should probably do the AA program because you need that structure.
Yeah, for sure. I think this has to be a man by man decision. Like you yourself have to figure it out. And if you're asking the question, honestly, I feel like you probably would benefit from the AA program. Because if you were going to just go and talk to girls, you would already be doing that, right? Like you would just go and talk to girls. Like I didn't have to convince Jason to talk to girls. I just said like, hey, go talk to girls. And next day he comes back, hey, so I did 20 approaches that day. And then the next day it was like another 20. And the next day another 20. And then he had a day, and I think it was his second week or maybe his third week, where it was like 47 or 57, whatever it was, approaches in a day. And so it's like, This guy doesn't need the fucking program. But other guys, like you said, Brandon, they will spend 6 months half-assedly talking to girls. Maybe they talk to one girl a week or something. And it's like, okay, maybe you need the fucking AA program. Devin, jump in, man.
Yeah, I think the like unseen benefit from the AA program is really like social freedom, because like a lot of people feel restricted when talking to girls because they don't want to embarrass themselves. They think it's wrong. Like doing all this stuff in public is like not socially acceptable, but the AA program really breaks you out of that like mindset. Even though it's kind of structured around talking to girls, I think that the like mental benefits of the AA program really outweigh how much time it takes to do, you know?
Yeah. So generally speaking, let's look at this. So let's take a step back and do what I always do, which is like look at the intent of this guy's question. So Adam, why are you asking this question? Are you asking it? And I wish people would put why they're asking a question when they ask the question, but I guess people don't sort of think of that. Adam, are you asking the question because you're thinking of doing the AA program? Or do you want to go out? Like, are you asking us for permission? If you're asking me for permission to skip the AA program, sure, I give you permission. Go and talk to girls. But you have to actually be able to go and talk to girls. You have to go and talk to girls. Like, you don't get to do neither. If you're asking me, will you get better results from people who do the AA program versus not doing it? It's really hard to quantify that. I'd say I'm going to give a general rule and say, yes, sure. Generally speaking, if you do the AA program, you will be better at talking to girls. But there are enough exceptions. Jason here is one of them. I have friends who who just went out and talked to girls and they crushed it. So I've seen enough exceptions to that. Playtime is over was an exception to that, but he's going to go back and do the AA program, I think, because he wants the benefits of it. So Adam, why are you asking this question is the thing I'd say to you. And if you're asking it to procrastinate, just go and do something right now. Just go and start the AA program, sure, because that's easier than starting to talk to girls. So just start the fucking program. You're asking this question. The answer is go start the AA program. I think all of us would agree with that. Jason, feel free to jump in if you disagree, but if you agree, don't bother. Go and start the fucking AA program, man. All right, pick a shoe. I'm assuming that's some joke on Pikachu. Pick a shoe. How to keep motivated when there's shit weather. I don't necessarily think, I'm going to have a different answer to this. Maybe you guys will have a different answer. I don't think you necessarily have to keep motivated. What I would do is just go somewhere where there's no shit weather. Go inside. Go in a shopping mall. Why are you trying to keep motivated? Just make it easier on yourself. This guy goes on to say, I just feel depressed when it's shit weather. I don't think there's any trick except to force yourself, but I'd still like your opinion. You don't have to force yourself, man. I wouldn't say like go out with an umbrella. I never hit on girls when it was raining, like outside with an umbrella. Fuck that. I don't think I ever have in my entire life. Why would I want to? It's cold, it's wet, it's miserable. So I would go to a shopping mall where there's plenty of people inside and they feel happy and it's nice and warm and everyone's in a good mood. I wouldn't force yourself. Just like if you're fucking sick, I wouldn't force yourself through a brutal gym workout. I'd go to the gym. If you really need to recover, don't go to the gym. Or go to the gym and just have a chill workout. Just like have a nice fucking stretch, you know, load the bar up with half the weight you normally would and have a good time. Don't like hurt yourself. Jason, jump in, man.
So I feel like I've done a lot of approaches in the rain just because weather has been really weird in the summer. So like around like 6 days where it was like pouring rain. It was like we got hit by the tropical storm, and on that day I still went out and did it. I think to copy Andy, it's like the intent behind this question is like you feel like you might have an excuse to not do it, and I feel like until you do 300, like that's just a rough estimate, but I feel like around like what a lot of other people have also said, I think until you've done at least 300 approaches, you can't use that as an excuse. Like literally, just walk outside. That's fine. That's all you have to do, and you'll be okay. Maybe you'll do some, maybe you won't, but as long as you do it, you can beat that fear.
Sure.
Or beat that rationalization inside you.
Sure. Brandon, go nuts.
So this isn't a really nice answer, but if I knew this person personally, I'd probably lay into him a little bit for making such a dumb excuse.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. There's not shit weather every fucking day.
Well, even if there were, so the most girls I've talked to in a day, I think it was 53. And for context, the weather outside was about minus 30 Celsius. I don't know what that is Fahrenheit, maybe -5, -10.
Cold as shit.
-50. Cold as shit. Like it was maybe the coldest day of the year. And I just went inside and approached. So I feel like this is a dumb question, and you could apply the same to working out. Should I work out if it's raining? It's like, what does that have to do with anything? you're working out in a gym, right?
Yeah.
So even running, it's like, well, just go on a treadmill.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a lame excuse, and the person who asked that should just go and approach.
I agree.
Yeah.
Devin.
If you care enough about approaching, you'll go do what you need to do to get it done. Like Brandon said, this guy is just trying to find an excuse not to do something.
Yes.
Like with running, like I've fucking run in the rain because I needed to run and like, you know, work out that day, or like I've gone and approached to the mall, like you said, or any other thing. If you care enough, you'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have anything more to add to that. Appreciate the question, mate, but like you have to be aware, you have to be self-aware of what your brain is doing. And approach anxiety has many different forms, and one of the biggest forms is like making excuses, and those excuses will seem rational to you. It seems like a reasonable question. Well, when it's shit weather, I'm depressed. So like, why would I go and talk to girls if I'm depressed? And it's like, you engineered the situation in which you're depressed. Why do you have to be depressed just because it's raining? Why does shit weather make you depressed? What, you can't do a little deep breathing and some meditating? You can't read a positive book? You can't go and listen to one of my podcasts? You can't call a friend and feel better? You can't watch a funny cat video on YouTube? You can't do something to make yourself feel better? You can't just say to yourself, I'm being negative. I'm going to go to the mall and hit on some chicks and feel better. You're making an excuse. You're engineering a situation in which you can't talk to girls because it's very convenient. Because it means, oh, it's raining, I don't have to do girls today. Yeah, I get a day off. It's like, I'm sorry, man. If you want to get laid a lot, you have to talk to girls when you don't feel like it. Devin, jump back in, man.
You can even go deeper on this too, like with smaller situations, like, oh, she's talking to someone, I can't approach her, or oh, she's in Zara, I can't approach her. It's like, you need to catch yourself in the moment and be able to think, that's a fucking excuse, stop being a pussy and go fucking do it. You know, I do that all the time. Like, oh, we locked eyes and I didn't approach, I can't approach now. It's like, no, go fucking turn around and just approach her.
Yep, amen. Jason.
There's I don't know if it's an article, but there's a good notion that Andy preaches. Like, you shouldn't create more problems for yourself. Like your brain's going to come up with problems naturally as you're doing this, because you will feel uncomfortable and your brain doesn't like that. But Andy says, just instead of coming up with more problems or more reasons why you can't, try to come up with solutions, because there's always a solution for this, at least. And then, and you'll, and a lot of these solutions you come up with will make you feel a lot more empowered to be able to do things and not so helpless. Yeah.
You're fostering a victim mentality when you say stuff like, oh, it's shit weather, because now it's basically a lottery every day when you wake up as to whether or not you get to hit on girls and build the sex life you want and reach your goals. You're basically saying it's out of my control. I can't control the weather. I can't get laid. I can't have my goal. And it's like, no, man, as Jason just said, you need to look for solutions. There is always fucking 10 solutions to every problem. You need to start looking for them instead of giving up at the first hurdle. Oh my God, it's raining, I can't hit on girls. And I hope that you would look at what you just said and realize how silly that is. It's raining, so I can't hit on girls. And this is what happens with approach anxiety. Like Devin said, dumb excuses come up. Oh, she looked at me, so I can't hit on her. It's like, wouldn't that be a good time to hit on her? She just noticed you. Wouldn't that be when you hit her? Or she's with her friend. I can't hit on her. It's like, just go and be polite and say, hey, sorry to bother you. You're super fucking cute. She's on the phone. She's texting on the phone. So I can't. It's like, she's probably not doing anything. She's sitting there and she looks like she's waiting for a friend. That's a perfect fucking time to hit on her. She looks like she's shopping. Perfect. So these excuses, you got to start looking for solutions rather than focusing on the problem and saying it's game over. All right. Next question. This guy asked, same guy, Pikachu, says, do you guys live far away from the spots you approach? For me, it's something like an hour train ride to get to a good approaching spot. So it's difficult for me to get shit done and not procrastinate. But maybe I should just force myself. Don't know. Yes, to some extent, you will have to force yourself if you live far away. Second thing I'd say is, are you sure there's nowhere closer that you could hit on girls? Third thing I'd say is can you move? Like, if you can't afford it now, can you get a second job and afford that? Like, what do you have to do to, again, start looking for solutions? If you want my actual answer to this, yes, I used to live about 30-minute train ride plus a 20-minute walk from where I would hit on girls. I did the entire approach anxiety having to commute about 45 minutes to the spot where there were even any women. Every fucking day, I had to get on that fucking train. And I did it because, like Devin said, when you want it, you'll fucking do it. Why would you not fucking do it? And half of the approaches that I did after the AA program, I had to fucking commute there. And then eventually I got sick of doing that. So I took out a $10,000 fucking bank loan so I could move to the center of the city and eat through my fucking savings and only work part-time so I could fucking hit on girls. Again, you will do whatever it takes. Don't make excuses. Take out a fucking bank loan if you have to. I fully advocate for that. As long as you can pay it off and you know you're going to pay it off eventually. Take out a fucking bank loan so you can afford a better place close to the city. Why the fuck not? Or move in with 2 other people so you split the rent costs and it's not that much. Look for a solution. Definitely don't use living an hour away as an excuse, because it's not. It's a pathetic excuse, and I think you know that. You say you have to catch a train. Are there not girls at the train station that you can hit on? I hit on heaps of chicks at the train station. Can you not talk to a cutie on the train? Brandon, jump in, man.
Yeah, so it did take me a while. So I work outside the city, and there's like no good place to approach outside the city at all. Mm-hmm. So I would probably commute 45 minutes every day, and still do when I'm approaching, just to go talk to girls. So
it's what you have to do.
Yeah, it is a commute, but it's like a priority thing, right? It's like, well, like to me, my thinking is, well, how much do you really want it? You know, like if you want it enough, you do make the time, because you do have 24 hours, and I can guarantee you, whatever you're spending that time on, to you in that moment, it's a priority, right? So if it was a priority to approach, I don't think you'd be asking that question, or maybe you're just wondering if that's normal. I would say it's normal, but so I think Devin has the same mindset. Like, if you really want to approach, you need to be doing a lot, not just like 10 a week, 20 a week. To me, a lot is 200 to 300 a week. I haven't done that yet, but it's about in that range. And so to live that sort of lifestyle where you're normally getting laid from just talking to random girls, you need to be approaching that much. And you need to, like, for me personally, is like, I need to make sure I have no obstacles in my way to do that, right? So I moved closer. I live close to where I approach. So that way I still have to drive far, but when I do my approaches, it's at least close to go back home. And on the weekend it's close. But yeah, it's a priority thing. I think if people really approached a lot, like 400, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, it would just change their mindset a lot, because you see how worth it really is. And like, I don't think I'd be even close to like how good I feel about myself if I wasn't approaching as much as I am. And it's really hard for me to communicate that, because I know if I said that to like myself from a year ago, I wouldn't understand how significant that is. But I just say, like, dude, it like changes everything. Like, it really changes everything. Like, your goals change. You're like, how you feel about yourself, what you think you can accomplish changes, how worthy you are of a person, not just the girls, but like of life and what you want. It just totally changes when you're approaching life.
Yeah. Jason.
So I feel like I'm at the stage where I know that I have to use the numbers game if I do want to get laid. And so I'm at that point where I can just comfortably talk to like whichever girls I run across. But then like for talking to like 20, 30 girls a day, which, you know, I'm completely capable of, I feel like at some point you're like, you hit that point where you're just like, I need to talk to as many girls as possible. So you just try to make all your logistics great to do that. I know I've seen a trend for everyone, like Andy, Brandon, stuff like that. But like, I feel like I'm at the point where I have to like really, like I have to believe it, and I have to want it a lot more than maybe like getting rejected a couple times a day. Right. So it's like, how badly do I want the reward compared to like the bad feeling I'm gonna have?
Yeah, you obsess about the reward, and you obsess, like I talk about that all the time, fantasize about your goal, and that just like makes you want it. Like, how good will this be when I'm a player, when I can get laid whenever I want? That will feel fucking good. That's worth it. I'm going to make it a priority. Devin.
Yeah, so I did the same thing as Brandon, you know, where I lived originally was 30 to 40 minutes from like the nearest good mall. There's like no approaching in my town. It was really small. So when I did my most approaches, like when I finished the AA program, I think I drove 3 or 2.5 hours total between like 3 malls, So like I hit like 60 girls that day. It's like I went to a mall, I did like 30. I drove 45 minutes to the next mall, I did like 30. So like it goes back to how much you want it, really. Like you will drive that hour if you really want to approach.
Yeah.
But now I've moved, now I live in San Francisco. My block is really good for approaching nightlife as well. So you got to put yourself in a position, like Brandon said, so that there's no obstacles in your way to approach. Like there's no reason to make things harder for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Jason.
I know that I have an option to approach locally, but I feel like logistics are best when I go downtown. So that's what I do. But I feel like it almost becomes like a ritual at that point, like after you've done it for like a month. And then hour-long commitment, it really does, like from the beginning and even now, it just forces you to be like, I drove an hour here, like I got to do something. Like you can't just like walk back into your house, right? That's like super close by.
Yeah, I'm 30 minutes walk from my gym. I have to walk there and back 5 days a week, but it becomes exactly like you said, a ritual. It becomes part of it. It's like a nice way to prepare yourself for what you're about to do. So get in the right headspace, listen to some music. It's almost a nice part of it. It's like preparation. But one thing I want to point out with this guy's questions, both of his questions, he ended both questions by saying, should I just force myself? Maybe I should just force myself. So you already know the solution to this. Yes, you have to push yourself. You have to force yourself. At the start, this stuff is hard. Your approach anxiety is telling you, it's raining, I shouldn't have to do it. I live an hour away, that's a good excuse. You have to push through that and force yourself to do it, and just trust that if you do it enough days in a row, it becomes a habit, and it isn't hard. I had to force myself for the first 2 months of going to the gym to walk half an hour there and half an hour back. I had to make myself. I had to force myself. I had to sometimes bribe myself and say, oh, well, when I do that, I can have a donut after the gym. I had to put on podcasts that I really enjoyed. There were a couple of days where I said to my girlfriend, Imogen, will you walk with me just so it's fucking interesting? Because I hate this fucking walk. I had to do whatever I could just to get to the gym. Now, it takes zero effort. Are you kidding me? I enjoy the walk. It's nice. It's a nice relaxation before the gym and a nice relaxation afterwards. It's fucking lovely. I love walking to and from the gym. Same thing with, I'm sure you guys would say, the commute or the drive or the train or whatever to where I'm approaching isn't that bad. What are you talking about? It's chill. I get to listen to music, or I get to just think about what I'm going to do. I get to think about my life. I get to just have a nice fucking drive. It's cool. It's cruisy. It's easy. It's not that hard. Jason, I'm sure you'd say the same thing. You walking to downtown is not fucking difficult. You don't have to make yourself do it now. You're just it's the thing I do every day. It's a habit. So yes, force yourself. Once you have forced yourself for enough time, I promise you it becomes easy, but the only way it becomes easy is if you keep forcing yourself and build a habit of it. If you do it sporadically, you go and talk to girls once a week, no, it won't be a habit at all. Every single time you do it, you have to force yourself. So make it easy on yourself. Do it multiple days in a row. It will get easier. Even if all you do is walk to the place where you're going to approach girls and just walk around and pussy out on a bunch of girls, that's still better than nothing. You still are building a habit of getting there. And then if you put yourself there every day, you will eventually get to a point where you start talking to girls. And if you can't, after all that time, fine, do the approach anxiety program. But yeah, you are going to have to force yourself. All right. Next question comes from a guy in my group coaching, actually. I love this guy. He's fucking a legend. Making a comeback. So he says, how do you stop from feeling hopeless when approaches go poorly for long periods of time? This was something that I had to deal with, and I already gave him this article. Good Looking Loser has an article called Relax. You'll eventually get pussy. And the point of this article is this is a numbers game. You go through periods where you don't get any lays. I went through a period where I approached 200 girls and didn't get laid once. Now, that was because I was in a weird frame of mind where I was rejecting most of them, and I could have fucked about 10 girls, but I turned a bunch down. But the point is I went through 200 approaches and I felt hopeless. I felt like I can't get laid. This sucks. The answer is, I'm sorry. You have to just keep going. That's it. That's the point where most guys quit, or most guys go away and just make an excuse. That's why this shit is hard, because you do go through periods where it's not great. And this guy in particular still has a lot of weight to lose. That will be why your approaches aren't going well. You have to just keep powering through, man. You have to. You don't have a choice. Well, you have a choice. You can quit, but then you don't get what you want. So if you want what you want, you have to keep going. Brandon.
Yeah. So I feel like I could answer this one pretty in depth, but so making a comeback has seen. So I got cold approach away I don't know, a month ago. And that was me actually losing my V card. believe it or not. So, and he saw that and he couldn't believe it. And yeah, that's actually what happened. So I lost 70 pounds last year just to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did the AA program just to be able to do this. And then when I started, it was probably like my 250th, 300th actual approach, where something actually happened. And before that, I had one date out of 300 approaches, one entire day. So, yeah, so like, and meanwhile, Devin like got late twice, I think, in that same time period.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was hard not to compare myself. Like maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe it's not even like I'm doing the right things. I'm just lacking some key ingredient, and I'm just doomed, right? And like that was for sure a thought. Like maybe I'm just screwed up, and like I can't fix this. And it took, I would call it hygiene. Like it took mental hygiene of just like making sure I was like in a good mindset to be able to deal with that perpetual thought of like, maybe you just can't do this. And yeah, it's just grit. Like it was just grit, like just going out and just making sure I was in a good mindset. And eventually it paid off. Like I went to Toronto. Like I live in Calgary. Toronto's like a 36-hour drive from here. I flew there, but just to give an idea of how far it was. Just because it was like, hey, I got to see if it's Calgary or if it's me, right?
Yeah.
Like I got to see if my town actually sucks or if it's actually just like me who's screwing up. And then I went there and I got late. So I think that sealed it, but I totally get it. And that's just honestly just something you're going to have to deal with because I 100% empathize with that. And it's also, I know if somebody who has that thought hears this, they'll think, oh, well, you look good, or like, you have that ingredient where you can just stick it out for a long time or whatever. I don't have that. And like, I get that. I've had that thought before. I've had every variation of that thought. And it just, eventually it pays off. And maybe it takes more work for you versus somebody else, but it does pay off. And it's like so fucking worth it. Cause like when I was in Toronto, that was like the best weekend of my life by far. Not just because I got late, but like it was so fucking amazing. And I remember like afterwards, I was like, this is like 100 times better than like all the hardship it took.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Like actually, like I'm not just saying that. Like that was like the best feeling I've ever had. It was like, it wasn't just the way, it was like, okay, like you went through all that and you still pulled it off. Right? What does that say about you? And like you start making conclusions about yourself, and you're like, self-view starts to change. Yeah. So yeah, I get it, but like stick it out because it's like it's so fucking worth it. So fucking worth it.
Yeah. The thing I tell people is like, do you have any other choice? Like, can you quit? And most guys that I ask that to, most guys who watch like my content, most guys who are on my forums, definitely most guys who are in like my coaching programs, and definitely guys who are asking these kind of questions, can you quit? The answer most of them will say is like, no, I don't know. They'll think about it. They'll think about it for quite a bit, and they'll be like, I don't know how to quit. Like, I'll hate myself. I'll have to kill myself, or I'll just hate myself, or I can't look in the mirror, or I'll always know I was a pussy and I didn't have to be. Like, because you know that this, as hard as it is, you know that if you quit, you could have kept going. You always know. It's not like your body was completely broken, or your mind exploded, or someone had a gun to your head and said, you got to quit, dude, or I'll kill your fucking family. It's none of that. You know, you just chose to stop. Like, it's not even a proper quit. It's just like, I'm going to stop now. I give up. And you know that you could have kept going. And you have to live with that for the rest of your life. And most people can't. Most of you know that you can't. So I always ask the question, could you quit? The answer is no. So it's like, well, what choice do you have? That kind of almost seals the deal. You're going to be successful because you can't quit. That's why I say the most important thing is don't ever fucking quit. That's all that really matters. Don't fucking quit. So many men quit halfway through this journey, or at the end of the journey, or at the beginning of the journey, or a week into the journey, and that's why they're not successful. So don't look at other people who've failed and say, oh, well, look how hard this is. It's like, no, they just quit. Look at the people who made it. And every single one talks the exact same way that Brandon just spoke. I speak the exact same way. You talk about a million doubts you had, a million reasons your brain gave you as to why you couldn't succeed, a million moments where you were like, I'm fucked up. I'm more fucked up than everyone else. It's just me. I'm the fucking reason that I can't get laid. You go through all of that shit. We all go through all of that shit. And if you just don't quit, one day you have a fucking breakthrough. It comes randomly, arbitrarily, almost accidentally, but as long as you show up every day, it does come. Some people, it takes way longer than others. Some people have more changes to make. Some people are doing something wrong, so to speak, that the rest of us are not doing. So you have to learn how to fix that. We all have our own hurdles and things to overcome and our own flaws to work on. But absolutely, you find success if you just don't fucking quit. Jason.
So it's very like similar to a lot of experiences. You will have like a very long period of self-doubt and you'll be like, maybe I can't do it. Oh God, like I'm going to quit, or like I can't do this for the rest of my life, or stuff like that. And then at that point, what really kept me going was like, it's dumb because like I was never religious, but it was like just like blind faith of like everyone who's like done it before you. And you hear like, dude, it was so hard, but I just kept pushing through it and eventually you'll get it. So I feel like it was really helpful. So like just hearing, I think like someone like Senior Peppers, he also talked about it and he had him on the podcast once. But like hearing all these people be like, you just got it, like they've been there before, you just got to push through it, you will make it. And having that promise to me at least gave me like the enough like tenure to just like keep going, and then you will make it. It's a lot closer than you think. You just got to struggle through like these hard times, and then you'll make it.
Yeah.
You won't realize it though.
You won't know it at the time. It won't feel like you're on the cusp of making it, but like I'm in a very good position where I get to watch people, and I've seen enough people where it's like I can tell that someone's like really fucking close to a breakthrough, and those are the hardest moments when that person is like they can't see it yet, and I'm like, bro, just keep, please. You're like 3 months away from a breakthrough. Please don't quit now. Devin.
It almost seems kind of weird to say, but like it's inevitable. It will happen eventually. Like you might think that like, I think people think too small. You know, it's like, oh, I've done 50 approaches and I haven't gotten laid. It's like, okay, do 10,000 approaches and you will get laid multiple times. It is literally inevitable that it will happen if you just keep continuing. So like, I think, 100 approaches is even too small to think, 200, 300, like, Brandon, you did like 250 or something, you got laid. Like, I could go on to do 300 more approaches and not get laid, and you get laid like 20 times in the next like 100 approaches. So it's really just thinking larger than thinking like small.
Yeah, people do the same with pretty much any goal. And I think one thing that I've really focused on is giving people realistic timelines when they ask me for stuff. Like if someone says to me, when could I be elite? I'll be like, depending on how hard you push yourself, 2 years. Like 2 years when you're at a point where you're having threesomes, you're crushing it, you're just a legend. Yeah, like 2 years, sure. Depending on the person. If they're morbidly obese, I might say 3 years. But people don't look in terms of that. They're like, oh, can I have the thing I want right now? And you're like, no, fucker. Like, none of us got it that quick. Okay, some people get it, sure. That's like, I'm going to say 1 in 100 people that I see get it almost immediately. But that's usually because they're already really attractive. They already dress really well. And the only thing holding them back is just giving themselves permission to play the numbers game. And as soon as I give them that permission, they just start crushing it. I have a couple of guys in my group coaching program, Jason, you're going to know who I'm talking about, who just like look like fucking gods. And they just never gave themselves permission. And then as soon as they do it, they're like, hey, I just had sex with 3 girls in 8 hours. Oh my God. And you're like, yeah, sure. But that is so fucking rare. Most people, it takes like, I'm going to say 2 years. 2 years is just a nice amount. And the same applies for the gym. If you want to look like a fucking Greek god, it's like you got to start thinking in terms of years and start thinking in terms of like, is this a long-term thing I can keep up? Rather than how do I just use motivation and get through it for the next like month or two? It's like, no. You got to start looking big picture. If you want to get laid and build an elite life or have an amazing girlfriend and a wife and kids and all that shit that you really can commit to and love to bits and all that, not just like the first woman who talks to you and is nice to you. This shit takes a couple of years, like to get to that point. Like no one here would ever tell you, oh, you can just have it in the next 3 months. It's like, no, start thinking bigger picture. If you're not prepared for that, self-improvement is not for you, because I've said self-improvement is a lifelong endeavor. Why would you ever want to stop improving yourself? All right, next question. Similar to that one, and we don't have to talk a lot about this one, because we do have a few more questions to get through, but is cold approach worth it if you're unattractive but working hard on your looks? I'm just going to straight up say yes. Are you going to just wait until you look perfect? Like, just start now. If anyone else has anything to add to that, go nuts.
Yeah, really quick. So I'd just say with cold approach, Andy, you'd probably be able to differentiate this more, but I would say with cold approach, the number one factor is how, maybe not confident, but how like direct you are in getting the girl's number, and
yes.
and then following through with that number once you're on the date. That matters by far more than anything. You could look pretty garbage. Like you could look in a way where you get nothing online, but you would slay in cold approach just because you're like direct enough with the girl.
Sure. And there is still a baseline level of looks, which we talk about all the time. You can't go out as a morbidly obese sack of shit.
Totally. But the key word is the words you're saying, like morbidly obese sack of shit. Like it isn't nearly as high as online, I don't think.
I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, you can look pretty bad and still get pretty good results.
And when we say bad, we're not talking about the normie opinion of bad. We're talking about bad in this community. So I hope everyone understands what we're saying there. Like looks are still important, but yeah. Yes, you can absolutely crush it in cold approach when you would get 0 matches on Tinder. And I see enough guys doing that, where they get 0 matches on Tinder, literally 0 matches. I say go outside and they get laid a couple of times. So yeah, the threshold is lower as long as you just play the numbers game, and that will develop your confidence. You don't have to go out and be a confident person. Just hit on a lot of people and you will become one. To what final question? Oh, Devin, do you want to jump in and say something, buddy?
Yeah, I think like thinking about why he's asking the question, it's also just another excuse not to approach. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough looking now. I'm too fat. Like it's just another excuse. You can make progress while also attaining like the physique that you want. I mean, you're a prime example of that, you improved your style, but still was getting laid like while doing all the approach.
I appreciate that neg. I appreciate that. But it's true. It's true. No, it's true. I was not even remotely maxed out. You can say I'm not right now. I'd be the first person to say I'm not even remotely maxed out. My style is good. My body is absolutely fucking not. Half of my coaching clients look infinitely better than me. So you don't have to be a maxed out motherfucker. But I did.
Same here.
Yeah. I would say no one in this group is even remotely maxed out. Not even, we're like 10% of where we will be in 2 years. But the point that I had, or someone once told me that I'm like a bulldozer. I would just keep smashing my head into the wall and not stop until the wall has like crumbled, which is a nice way of saying I played the numbers game like fucking crazy. I was stubborn. I refused to ever say I'm not where I need to be. Like I didn't, and people told me, by the way, I had plenty of people on the forums tell me you look like shit. You shouldn't even, I had some guys tell me you shouldn't even be focusing on getting laid right now. You need to lose fat. You look like trash. Like, especially on Tinder. Why are you even on Tinder? You look like shit. Your pictures suck. Like, I was told that multiple times, and I was like a stubborn fucker who was like, no, I'm not going to wait 6 months until my body looks good, which, spoiler alert, if I'd done that, I wouldn't be getting laid right now because my body still doesn't look good. It looks okay. Sure, I look better than the average person, but I don't look like a god. I don't look anywhere near where I want to look. So I would have been waiting like 3 years before I started getting laid. I'm really glad I didn't wait. Please don't wait. Please don't use it as an excuse. In fact, the momentum you can build now from just hitting on girls and getting a few really good reactions will make you want to lose weight. Because you'll go, 1 in every 10 girls that I hit on is super into me. If I lose a bunch of weight, fuck, would that be like 1 in 3 girls or 1 in 5 girls? Like your brain will start like, playing those numbers out and you go, fuck, like, and maybe some of those girls would have given me a phone number. They didn't now because I'm fat, but what if I lost a bit more weight? And you want to lose that weight because you will remember the conversations with those girls, specifically that girl, and go, fuck, what if I'd fucked her? And the other girl that was nice, what if I'd fucked her? Oh my God, how nice would that have been? You start fantasizing. It's like positive momentum. But if you just sit there and say, I'm going to lose weight at home by myself and never talk to any women, you can fuck around and procrastinate and be slow and not to, because like, what have you got to lose? You're just, everything's okay. You're complacent. You're not putting yourself out on the front line. There is also a feeling of, not embarrassment, but that feeling of like when you're hitting on a girl and you deep down know, I could look way better than I do right now. I'm almost slightly embarrassed about how I look while I'm hitting on her. That's another great source of motivation to lose weight. Like to push that feeling away, to go like, oh my God, I'm a fat piece of shit. And I would hope you don't say that about yourself. But if you're like, I'm fat, I got to fucking lose some weight. God damn it. Like This is almost embarrassing. Like, why am I hitting on these chicks? That's good motivation. Final question. We already really answered this, so I don't think we need to go deep on this. Actually, fuck it. We can go deep on this. To what extent did cold approach contribute to you becoming the man you are today? I mean, it's hard to quantify, but I'm just going to say I wouldn't be that person if I hadn't gone through that. I wouldn't have done my website if I hadn't cold approached. If I'd only gotten laid from Tinder, I would have felt a very strong sense of imposter syndrome. I would have still written a Tinder guide, sure, but I wouldn't be confident on teaching other guys how to get laid because I would have felt like I was missing a big piece of the puzzle. I'd never gone outside and actually cold approach is like putting yourself into a war zone. Tinder is a little bit, but it's not the same. It's not even remotely the same. I don't think it'll ever be the same. And I am the Tinder guy. I'm the Tinder guy. But even I will say, like, yeah, cold approach is just like a whole different beast. And I think I would tell every man who wants to get laid to just go and at least get laid like once from cold approach. Just once, so that you can say you put yourself out there and you went through hell. Jason.
Yeah, I feel like I'm watching a lot of like myself transform after going through like at least getting used to cold approaching, and it's kind of crazy to me how much better I feel about myself and like how many doubts I had. I feel like if I only did Tinder, I would have always had doubts in myself. So I feel like if I only had a choice, even if like cold approaching was infinitely like harder, I would still go with like cold approaching. You would feel like you're never helpless, and that does a number for your masculinity and your independence.
And because you've had a couple of lays now, those lays, they very much feel like you pulled them out of like thin air. You saw the girl, you walked up to her, you did the whole conversation, you asked for her phone number, you took her on a date, you got drinks for her, you said come back to my place, you made the moves, you stuck your penis in her, and then you kept her around afterwards. That is 100% you. You. Tinder still feels great, don't get me wrong. Having crazy wild sex is fun. Having threesomes and all that shit is fun. You can do that with cold approach too. But Tinder like is a lottery by definition. Because half the girls you swipe on don't swipe on you. You can't make them swipe on you. Whereas cold approach, you can make her have a conversation. You walk up and say, yo, hey, you're cute. You're sexy. You have done that. You have specifically chosen one woman. You do multiple women, obviously, but you've chosen one woman in that moment to go and talk to. You don't get to do that on Tinder. It's more passive. It's more like whoever matches with me, I'll talk to them. So yes, you still have to be assertive after that, but cold approach is like, I'm the fucking man. I did this. It will always feel, it's always going to be one step above Tinder in terms of like boosting your masculinity for sure. And so I can see why people shit on online dating. I don't agree with it, but I can see why they do with it. Why they do it. I would always say cold approach is here. Tinder is like there. Jason.
Yeah, it gives you like a level of competence that you know that you don't see like anyone around you do it. Like, yeah, sure, hot guys may have like 10 times your success on Tinder, but do they go around and like get rejected so many times? Correct. It gives you a level of like fortitude. Sure, you might not always be successful, but you're damn well trying a lot more.
And I guess we've made it a binary thing here. It doesn't have to be. Like, I'm proof of that. You can do both. Like, and I encourage all my clients and shit and everyone on the forums do both. Like, go on Tinder and go cold approach. It doesn't have to be a one or the other thing. Brandon.
Yeah. So, I mean, the answer is yeah, it's worth it. Yeah. Like, but it's really hard to explain it because it's like, I don't know, it's like explaining a color you can't really see unless you cold approach. Like, what does that color look like? It's like, oh, fuck, man, it's amazing. But like, there's no words to capture it. So maybe some examples. So like, so I started this year with quite a few goals, probably spanning 3 years. Pretty much all of them have got condensed into 1 year because since I can cold approach now, like my brain automatically thinks, okay, what the fuck else can you do, right? So like, did the AA program, and then after that I got like a pay raise, which I didn't think I could get, but I caught it. And then I moved in, like, honestly, the best part of the city. Like, I don't think I could be living in a better part of the city right now. And that was like a 2-year goal. And like, I did in like maybe 4 or 5 months of this year. And that was just because cold approach was like, well, why the fuck wouldn't I try? I mean, I've done that. That like cold approaching is impossible. So why don't I try this? And then now, like, so where I'm at now I'm thinking like I'm gonna probably go to Korea in like maybe 6 months for an extended period of time. that was like 4 years from now. I was supposed to do that. Now I'm starting to think, okay, let's actually think about this because I think it's doable to do it like really soon. And it actually kind of works. Like the plan's kind of working out that I'd be able to do that. Now that being said, if like I want to make it clear, if I wasn't cold approaching, I don't think I'd be doing any of that. I think I would probably still just be posting on the forum about weight loss and like complaining. Whereas with cold approach, it's like your confidence like gets to a level, it's like off the charts. Like it actually just starts going off the charts because you can't find anybody in real life to compare like your level of confidence to, right? Because like everybody sees a girl and it's like, oh, like go say hi to her, go say hi to her. You're like, fuck her, like that's easy, right? And yeah, it's just insane. Like it's actually insane. And I think the fact that more people aren't cold approaching is just testament that like you don't know how good it is, because if you did, you'd be doing it.
Yeah, I really liked what you said there. I was going to come back and make this point at the very end, but I'll make it now. You know, when you cold approach, you're doing something that 99.999% of men cannot do. And you know that. And Brandon and I talked about this in the podcast I did with him, the interview I did with him. You know you're doing something that most other men cannot do, or almost all other men cannot do. So you know you're up here and they're down there. That sounds arrogant to say, but it's true. Like you are literally doing something that they aren't doing. Just like if you won an Olympic gold medal, you'd know that you're better than most people. You've done something most people can't do. If you become a multimillionaire, you're better than most people. If you become famous, you're better than most people. By definition, you are. You've done something they haven't done. So cold approach absolutely gives you that confidence to know I'm in a league of my own all of a sudden. And how that affects the rest of your life is like all of a sudden you stop caring what normies think. Like I've said this so many times. I could not give a fuck what normies have to think about lockdowns or masks or COVID or vaccine. I just don't give a fuck. I'm busy doing my own shit. I could not give a shit what people think about me doing BDSM and having an open relationship with my girlfriend and making her fuck girls. You know, I couldn't give a shit. Why would I give a shit? I couldn't give a shit what people think if I say I made $19,000 this month. I couldn't give a shit if people were like, oh, that's too much money. I couldn't give a shit. Like I couldn't give a shit about anything that I do now. I couldn't give a shit about what anyone else has to think about my life or my goals or who I am as a man. I couldn't give a fuck because I am better than you. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't get to my level and be as good as I am. I want you to. That's the point of my whole website. It's the point of this YouTube channel. But until proven otherwise, I am here. You are there. Get to my level, please. That's part of what I'm trying to help you do. But if you're down here, I don't care what you're doing. So I, by definition, do know that I am a better man than other people. I'm quite confident to say that. It's true. If that annoyed you, it would be because it is true and you know it's true. So that's what cold approach gives you. Cold approach starts that process. Yeah, Brandon.
I just wanted to say I agree 1,000,000%.
That's
like
more
that's
than
so true.
100%.
Like you really get to a place where like I'm actually better than everybody.
Yes.
So what can I do in my life? Like, because you break away from normal thinking and like, okay, I'm gonna live a normal life now. Like you actually are disattached from that. You're like, I can actually do whatever the fuck I want and actually make it happen.
Yes. Yes. And all of the limiting beliefs that you had before, like me with money, they just disappear. Like in my head right now, I'm like, why couldn't I earn $100,000 a month? There's no reason. Whereas to me, like, you know, before all this, that they seemed impossible. It's like, you can't earn that if you earn that in a year from a coaching business, that's amazing. Good job. Holy fuck, you're rich. Whereas now it's like, why can't I earn that in a month? There is another part of my brain that goes, I could probably earn that in a day. I don't know how. It'll probably take me 5 years or 10 years, but I could do that in a day. Like, why not? That's not impossible. Could I go out and have a fucking orgy of 10 women right now? Yeah. Why couldn't I do that? Like, could I fucking change the world? Yeah. Could I become famous? Yeah. Could I get to 1 million YouTube subscribers? Yeah. Could I, like, whatever weird limiting beliefs you have, you realize none of those have to apply to you. They're just like normie rules, the rules that normal people live by, the blueprint that normal people live by. And you don't have to live by those rules. And cold approach is a very big part of that because you're already doing something that is supposed to not be possible, that normal people don't do, that you're not supposed to be allowed to do. You're not supposed to be allowed to go outside and just have sex with women. Like you're supposed to like be friends with them or simp for them or like whatever other rules that society has, right? You're supposed to like take a while to get to know her and build a connection and all that. You're not supposed to just be able to walk up and say, yo, you're fucking sexy. Like Can I get your phone number? Let's have sex. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. You've done that. You realize all the other beliefs are bullshit as well. So yes, making a comeback, you're asking the question of, will this change my life? The answer is yes, absolutely. Devin, jump in, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be where I'm at without cold approach. Like, I'm gonna go extreme and say that, like, I am who I am because I've cold approached. 6 months, it's only been 6-7 months since I started. When I'm 28 now, when I was like 24, I wanted to move to Japan and I didn't think it was possible. You know, I got to get a bachelor's, I got to do this and that. I'm like, this takes hella long. But now it's been 6 months. I've, you know, done like 500 approaches. I've done the AA program. I've moved out. And now the plan is to live in Japan in April, you know? So I wholly believe that I'm able to do what I've done because of cold approach. Like, you have said it before, or Brandon said it, it puts you on this like crazy trajectory above like what normies think. Like, I couldn't, if anyone told me that I like couldn't go to Japan, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm going to do this. Like, there's no way I'm not going to do this. There has to be a way.
Yeah. Because you've already done something impossible, something that everyone told you was impossible, and you yourself even thought it was impossible. We all thought, by the way, everybody listening, we all thought cold approach was impossible when we all started. Like, we all thought it was fucking impossible, me included. Like, of course, we all did. We thought getting laid from cold approach was impossible. I thought threesomes was impossible. I thought BDSM and shit was impossible. I thought an open relationship with a girl who's actually happy to fuck other girls with you and not just tolerates it, I thought that was impossible. I thought building a coaching business was impossible. We think all of this shit is impossible, and then we do it, and then it's like you say, someone else will tell you something else is impossible, and you're just like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. What are you talking about, you fucking goofball? Like, I already did the impossible. Impossible is nothing, to steal a quote from Nike. So cold approach, absolutely fucking do it. I think we've drilled that point home. Let's move on to the next question. We've drilled that home. We're all better than everyone listening. That's all we need to say. And by the way, I want to make this fucking clear. I am not saying we are better human beings. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have achieved something you haven't. And I would hope that you listen to what we just say and say, fuck, I want to do what they've done. I want to get on their level. Or what I would hope you say is, I want to be better than them. Because you absolutely can. We're telling you what we've done. You should be able to leapfrog over us. Like, you should be able to learn from our fuck-ups, because God knows we've all fucked up a million times. I talk about my fuck-ups in podcasts all the time. Like, please be better than us. We're not saying we want to be better than you. We want you to be better than us. I think everyone in this group, raise your hands if you want everyone listening. Yeah, we all fucking raised our hands. Like, we want you to be better than us, for fuck's sakes. Like, please be better than us. Enjoyable Hat says, he wrote a long question, so I'll just abbreviate it. How long are the conversations that you have with girls when you're more comfortable approaching? Okay, and how long did it take you to get to that point? God, this is such a long question, dude. So, okay, how long are your conversations? And how long did it get you to that point where you're comfortable having that length of conversation? So for me, most of my conversations are like, I'm going to say honestly, like 3 minutes long. Obviously, if she's not interested, like, I just immediately leapfrog. I ask every girl for a number, so I'll leapfrog. If she's not interested, I would just be like, let me get your number then, knowing that it's going to be a no. But I've had a couple of yeses, so that's why I asked. But most of my conversations are about 3 minutes, roughly. How long did it take me to get to that point? I'm going to say like 200 approaches, maybe. So that wasn't that long. That was like a month. Devin.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I literally talked to a girl for like 20 seconds. Like, it's like, hey, you're cute. I wanted to talk. Or it's like, how's it going? You're cute. And she says something. And then it's like, what are you doing? And then it's like, do you like coffee? It's like, let me get your number. Like, literally like 20 seconds. And it works. Like, and then on the other end of the spectrum, if she's being receptive, like, you know, talking back, it's like, oh, how's your day? It's like, okay, maybe I'll talk to her more, because, you know, I feel like I want to talk to her more. It's really all about the vibe that you're getting. Like, you can talk to a girl, but I don't think that talking to a girl will increase your chances of getting a number.
I disagree with that. I personally have found that when I talk more, I get more numbers and they lay me more. But like, this is one of those things where if we debate, and I have tried both, but if we debate, the answer is always going to come back to, why are we even debating this? Just go out and talk to more girls. Because let's say what I say, which is talking for longer, works better. Let's say I'm correct on that. Do you know what Devin does that I don't do? Devin talks to like 3 times the girls that I do. So it balances out. You know what I mean? Like these discussions on which one of these things is better. There's probably an answer. There probably is a correct answer for sure. But these are the things that you want to not lose focus of what's most important, which will always be look good, go out and talk to a lot of women, of course. Like talk to as many women as you can. You'll figure it out anyway. Like Devin, if I said to you, you have to talk to every girl for 3 minutes like I do, you'd probably be like, I don't want to. Like I wouldn't enjoy it. That will make me feel like I'm wasting time. I don't want to do that. And it's like, so you should always do the thing you want to do because you'll keep that up for the longest and you'll do the best at it. Brandon.
Okay, I'm in the same school of thought as Devin. So I've talked to girls for a long time, and I've talked to them for short. I've noticed no difference as far as length of conversation to how likely she is to give her number at all. And I found that it's just more efficient to just make your conversation short. So I'd say for me, it's probably 30 seconds or so, upwards to a minute of how long I talk to them. Now, sometimes it's 5 minutes because I'm just feeling like it, but when you go, like, it's a numbers game, and when I'm going for numbers, 2 minutes, 3 minutes talking to a girl who's going to say no anyways is like kind of a waste. I'm better off just like quickly getting the answer from her than moving on. Now, I don't know, maybe that means like my numbers to dates rate is lower, but I still think, I don't know, I still think it's better, and I just like doing it better because it's less of a, like, I honestly, because my conversations are so short, I don't need to be in a good mood at all. It's literally just get in, get out, right? I don't need to do anything. It's literally, hey, like, you're cute. What are you up to today? You go to school? Cool. Well, I'm going that way. What's your number? And then that's it, you know? I don't need to be feeling super special to do that. So again, I think you could probably go either way. I just think it's more efficient within 1 hour block of time to talk to as many girls as possible.
Yeah, and people who ask this question, you're basically saying, like, how long should I talk for? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. You're asking the wrong question. The question should be like, I'm talking to 5 girls a week. How do I make that 10? That should be the question you ask. Or I'm talking to 20 girls. How do I make it 50? Or how do I go out when I'm in a bad mood? Or how do I go out when it's raining? Like those are the questions to ask. It's how do I play the numbers game more? Or you could even ask questions like, how do I improve my style? I think I dress like shit. Those are the more important questions, rather than the questions that don't matter as much, which is like, you know, how long should I talk for? Should it be 3 minutes or 20 seconds? Because it doesn't really matter. Again, Brandon probably wouldn't enjoy doing what I do, which is 3 minutes. I've tried for a long time talking for 20 seconds. I fucking hated it. I didn't want to do it. Why would I want to do that? I like talking for 3 minutes. I'm a fucking goofball. I like improv comedy. I like being at the center of improv. I like making shit up on the fly. I like being a fucking whack job. I love that shit. And so I would love talking to girls for 3 minutes and just like spitballing off what they have to say, making jokes, like mocking them, teasing them, having fun. They tease me a bit. I love that shit. So I would never do 20 seconds. You guys would never do 3 minutes. The answer will always be do what you fucking enjoy doing. And if you don't know what you enjoy doing, just try a bunch of different shit and see what you like. Devin.
Yeah, I think what you said is really important, is that you got to enjoy what you're doing. Like, if you're not enjoying the conversation, like, why would you force talking to her for longer? You know, whereas like if being efficient is what makes your approach process better for you, like you feel good that you got, say, 20 contacts or 20 approaches in an hour, like that's good, you know, like you just need to not try and like turn it into like a math equation. Like there is no real like set way to do things. You just got to do whatever feels good in the moment, you know? And it comes with how you approach, how you talk, like how you act, like everything should just be random, because you don't want to feel fake, you know? You got to just do what you want to do when you want to do it.
I did a video, or an article, I should say, ages ago called "Oh No, You've Angered the Gods." And a big part of what I talked about in that article was superstition. What happens is we will go out and we'll try something. Let's say you try short conversations for a while, and maybe that works. Maybe you get laid. And so then people will go, shit, getting short conversations, got laid, therefore short conversations are the thing to do to get laid. It's like, it's literally, that's why I said, it's like, oh no, you've angered the gods. This is what dumbasses do. And this is what especially dumbasses used to do back in the day. Like I swore in front of my wife and there's lightning outside. Therefore, God's pissed off at me. I angered the gods. I made God angry. So I should never swear in front of my wife. And this is how superstitions develop. It's because bad thing happens. People try and retroactively like reverse engineer it and go, well, what was I doing at the time that the bad thing happened? Oh shit, it was this. So it must have been, so that, oh fuck, I can't do that anymore. People do this with cold approach for sure, because you don't want rejection. It's so painful. Of course you're going to avoid it. And so you look for superstitions. And I see this all the time. Oh my God, well, I have to do short conversations because otherwise like she'll think that you're needy. Well, I have to do long conversations because otherwise she'll think that I haven't built rapport. Like you sort of retroactively reverse engineer what got you success and also what got you failure. And then you just like develop this superstition and you say, this is the only thing that works. And as we've said a million times, a bunch of this shit works. Like it almost all works unless you're doing something retarded. So please don't focus in, try your best not to develop a superstition. Try really hard not to care that much about stuff like this that really doesn't matter. It helps, sure. But like we're talking like a 5 or 10% improvement. And if you want a 500% improvement, go talk to 5 times as many girls. Brandon. You're muted, Brandon. You're muted. We cannot hear you. There you go.
Sorry, I feel like we're beating this to death, but I think this should be said. Like, so the girl I got a lay with 3 weeks ago, I didn't understand a word she said during the approach. She came from Korea like a few weeks ago, and I didn't understand what she said. She didn't understand what I said, and that was actually our approach. I didn't know what she said, and the reason I got her number was because I put my phone in her hand and just like pointed at the fields for her to fill out. And then the date was the same thing. I really didn't know what she was saying a whole lot. It was like really broken English. Mm-hmm. So I think that should kind of be as an example that like what you say, how long your conversations are, is not really as important as just doing a lot and like you find the right girl at the right time.
Yep. The first girl I ever slept with was like my 36th approach, I think. And she was this Chinese girl, cute little Chinese girl. She had just been in the country for like a week and she spoke almost no English. And like I had to literally, I'm not making this up, on the approach, pull out my phone and get Google Translate. And we had to like translate for each other. She could speak some broken English, but it was pretty shitty English. And the first date, we used the fucking Google Translate. I fucked her, I think, on the 4th date because she was super shy and shit, but I kissed her on the 2nd date and shit. And it's like, she didn't fucking speak English. The approach was like as bad as it possibly could have been, but it didn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Jason.
Okay, so the 2 biggest common threads, even though like everybody like seems to have like different opinions or like superstitions, is like that you can't negotiate attraction. So it's just like if she likes you, she's gonna like you. So it doesn't really matter. A lot of what we do, it feels like that's the common thread between a lot of these like lost in translation lays. Mm-hmm. And the second one is like to summarize the kind of like secret of becoming like when you get competent at cold approaching, the superpower you get is that like it trains you to do what you want, right? So all these common threads is just like, I like talking more, so I'm going to talk more. And he has success with that. I like being efficient. If you feel like being efficient, then yeah, you get success that way. There's like, you find out what you want and you start acting upon it. That's where it starts to show in like all other aspects of your life, from my experience.
For sure. Devin.
I'd just like to say that, every girl that I've gotten a lay from, I've had gelato with. So I always bring every girl to get gelato.
Gelato is beta. You didn't know that, but it's beta. You need to stop doing that because they're going to think you're a beta male. Because
no, it's great. It's great.
It's beta. Alpha. If you want something alpha, you got to take a girl out for a fucking steak. You gotta hit him with the fucking steak. Yeah. You didn't know, but yeah, basically you're never going to get laid with gelato. So just so you know, yeah, we're joking, obviously. So final question from Enjoyable Hat, same guy. Let's not even talk about this because the answer is so fucking simple. He basically says anything. He's asking the question, I have a particular type of girl that I'm not good at, a particular place I'm not good at hitting on girls. Do you have advice? Yeah, it's just going to come with time. Just make yourself do it. Just force yourself to do it. Final question. We will end on this because this is a happy, fun question. Alex says, what is the best reaction you've ever got? So you guys can go first and we'll finish with mine. Brandon.
Oh man. So it was a girl who rejected me. So I'll give the example, then I'll just give my thought on it. So like, she was like, "Oh wow, like how come nobody ever does this?" And I was like, I don't know. Like she was just really thankful that I did it. It made her day. She was just going through a bad breakup, apparently, and she was just thinking she just wished every guy would do something like this because like she got off on it. Now, okay, my thought on that is, um, at a certain point, you stop caring about the reactions, even if they're positive. Because you get over that. You get so validated that you're like, oh my God, I can make like hot girls like me, you know? And you get so much of that that you stop caring. It's really just like, okay, but is this girl actually going to go on a date? So girls who get validated from your approach really respond well. That's been my experience. And girls who actually go on a date or hook up are usually pretty shy during the approach.
Sure, yeah.
That's just been my experience. But yeah, like it is nice to get good reactions, and that was one of many, I would say.
Jason.
I would say like it wasn't. I guess it was my most. Okay, I'll just explain. It's just like this was like the hottest girl I've ever hit on, and then I was like, it took me 30 seconds to like gather my wits and do it. But then like even when I did it, I was like 99% expecting it to. But then she was like super receptive to it, and I'm just like, wait. And then this is like completely outside my thing. And then at that point, I completely like it. Like some people, it takes like 5 times to like prove to themselves like they can do it. But then after this one, I just sat there for 10 minutes. I'm like, the world is my oyster, and I'm like, I can hit on any hot girl, doesn't matter how hot she is. But she ended up being a time waster, but that was a really valuable experience for me.
I had similar experiences, mate, because I had these big fears around hitting on hot chicks. I hadn't given myself permission. I could only hit on, at the start, I could only hit on really shy, like Asian chicks. That was all I could hit on because I was like, everyone else is too intimidating. And I'd say one of my best reactions ever was like the first hot chick I ever hit on, who was just like nice. She didn't even do anything. She was just like nice. She had a boyfriend, but she was nice to me. And I was like, oh my God, hot chicks can be nice to me. They're not going to tell me to go fuck myself. Like, so that was probably one of my best reactions. Not my best, but one of. Devin, jump in.
Best reaction, actually, the one that I can remember is recent. It was 2 girls. They were like, one chick, tits out, her friend, cute blonde. I went and approached a chick with big tits, and she was really receptive. And then like maybe 30 or so seconds into the conversation, her friend's like, get her number. And then I asked for it and she gave me her number, So it was like a really receptive duo, which is like very, very odd, and that was a really cool reaction. Like I've never had, like sometimes the duo like just steps out of the equation and lets you hit on their friend, but this girl was like encouraging her, which is cool.
Yeah. I feel like all of us could list like 500 different good reactions we've had. And I don't want us to go on forever, but like if I'm to do my own, I could just come up with 100 different good reactions. Like girls who were just happy and giggly and smiley, girls who are over the top sweet. Obviously, the best reactions ever are the girls that you sleep with. Some of the best reactions I got were from girls that fucked me. Like one girl that I hit on her at night. She was by herself. She was wearing this like sexy fucking dress. Her tits are out and shit. And I just like right away, I said, you're sexy. And she's just like, so are you? Like in this like really sexy voice. And we ended up fucking like 2 hours later. Like that was probably my best reaction. Another one was this Polish chick that I hit on in this like red dress. And as soon as I hit on her, she just had this like confidence about her. I don't know how she was so confident, but I think because she was like 30 and she was just like fucking confident from the moment. And I was like, you're so confident. And she's just like, well, like, whatever she said. And then I put my arm around her, like around her waist. And we just like hung out for like an hour. I tried to kiss her. She turned her cheek and shit. But we ended up fucking like 2 dates later. So those are probably the best reactions that come to mind. But Alex, if you're asking this question because you want motivation, I'm going to say like most reactions you get from girls will be either neutral or nice. And when you're first starting out, even the neutral reactions feel good. You're like, whoa, she didn't tear my head off. And then you get to a point where the nice reactions just like absolutely holy fuck. They give you so much motivation because you're like, girls will be nice to me. Girls are sweet. Like, I'm not a loser that girls will just turn down. And it's like, yeah, newsflash that most people don't figure out until they actually hit on girls. Most girls are really fucking nice, like way over the top nice. I'm gonna say nicer than guys would be. I think if we were doing this to guys would be like, "Fuck off, bro! I'll fucking kill." Obviously, like ignoring the whole homosexuality thing. I think if just girls hit on guys would give way worse reactions than girls do. Girls are pretty fucking nice. Jason, jump in.
So this is like a 5-second question to Devin, and it's like a yes or no thing. Like, have you had success from hitting on pairs of girls? Because I feel like that's the one boundary I just don't touch after I did it like 10 times. Like gone on dates with the girl, slept with a girl that you hit on as a pair.
It's less likely, but it's definitely possible. So the girl whose number I got, I think I just fucked up texting her, but like she was receptive. You should definitely hit on duos. You should hit on trios. You should hit on quads. Like the amount of, so the way that I do it, just a little bit to go into it, is I'm not trying to validate myself for the group. I just talk to that girl. You know, you want to fuck that girl, so you talk to her. You don't need to make everyone your friend. Mm-hmm. So then that also comes off as being very confident in yourself because you're just talking to her. So that's how you can get a number in like a duo or a trio or something like that. I think again, it is inevitable that I will like have sex with someone from a duo, you know?
Yeah, Jason, if you're asking like, should I do it? The answer will always be yes. I had a mate that I went out with that I've talked about in heaps of podcasts that got laid like, I don't know, about 40 times roughly from cold approach. And he used to hit on duos all the time, like pairs of girls all the fucking time. He slept with a lot of them. The way he would do it, in fact, he liked hitting on pairs of girls more than single girls. I don't know why, that was his thing. And the way he would do it is he would talk to the group. He would talk to both girls and then he would ask for both of their numbers and try and fuck like both of them. And sometimes he succeeded, sometimes he didn't. I had another friend who was this like Turkish, like buff fucking bodybuilder guy who was just like so fucking aggressive. And the way he would do it is he would just only talk to the girl that he was hitting on. And every now and then he might turn to the other girl and be like, "Hi, how's it going?" And then he'd turn back to the main girl and just like hit on her aggressively. He was fucking aggressive. And he fucked plenty of girls from like pairs. Both of those guys, both of my mates, preferred talking to pairs of girls because they felt more like ballsy. And then if you want a counter argument, not an argument, but if you want another example, I never hit on pairs of girls. I've done it like once ever. I don't like it. Again, the answer will always be do what you like. But yes, you can fuck girls in pairs. Of course you can, man. Like, why wouldn't you be able to? Like, why not? It's a numbers game. It's not impossible. Just because her friend is there. Half the time, as Devin said, the friend will fucking egg her on and be like, "Go on, give him your number. Get some of that fucking dick. Get some of that beautiful Jason dick." All right, guys, we will wrap the fuck up just like I wrap up before I hit your mothers. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I would never wrap up for your mothers. So, really appreciate you guys coming on. This was a hell of a lot of fun. Anyone else listening, or everybody else listening, I will probably do another one of these in future. I'll see if these guys want to come on. I also have some other guys who want to come on. So really appreciate all of your questions. These were good questions. I know a couple of them we tore apart, but these are good fucking questions. Good job having the balls to ask these questions. I hope we weren't too hard on you with any of the answers. And feel free to ask more questions in the future. Just leave them in the thread that I put, or leave them as a comment on this video, or just email me, whatever you want to do. I'll collect them all and we'll do something again in future. Guys, feel free to unmute your English. Feel free to unmute your microphones if you would like to say anything. I appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Andy. And like, I think all of us will agree when we were coming down hard on like some of those excuses, it's like we've been there before.
Yeah,
we get it, and it's coming from a place of like, we respect where you're at. It's just we also have been there, and we know that's the answer. It's just to go and do it. But yeah.
And one thing I will add on to that is we all benefited from people giving us tough love. I sure as fuck did. The biggest epiphany I ever had was a bunch of guys just calling me out, especially a guy called No Strings Attached, just saying like, "You're basically being a fucking pussy. You're trying to avoid rejection. Stop this shit." And I went away for like a week and I just didn't come back to the forums because I was like, I needed to process it. And after a week, I was like, okay, I need to get laid. And that was the moment I started getting laid. I then 2 weeks later had sex with a chick in her public bathroom at her workplace in the lobby. You know, that was when I started going crazy. I was like, I need to just fucking get laid and just do batshit insane stuff because of that. So when we give tough love, it's because we all got tough love and we fucking needed it and it fucking helped.
Yeah.
Definitely.
About this shirt, just for the podcast, is anybody can do what I can do. You know,
What does
'cause
it
you guys
say?
can all
Anybody
do.
can do what I can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's literally true. You know, anybody can do this shit. Like, it's scary, it might be hard, but you can all fucking do it. You just gotta, you know, grow a pair of balls and go fucking talk to girls and just throw yourself into it, and that's it.
Yeah. I think we would all in this chat agree that we're all nothing special is a nice way of saying it. The real way of saying it is we're all fucking train wrecks. We're all absolute like fucking messes of human beings. We were at the start, especially. And it's like, so if fucking 4 retards like us can do it, you have no excuses. Like, we were absolute messes. I know we all were. Jason, anything? Give us something, buddy.
I thought I was pretty special, but yeah, but
You
this
did.
clearly proved-
You did.
I did.
You
I
did. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like coming up with all these like very twisted reasons why, you know, I'm gonna fail and like no one else who succeeded is like they're wrong or something. I rarely hear about cases where guys who try so hard and don't succeed. I don't think I've seen a single case of that for approaching girls, at least. And yeah, so I still think I'm special, but in a healthy way. And yeah, of course, everybody can do what we did. And I think like all of us would like to have more people who, you know, challenge themselves and grow up to be like, you know, I guess the epitome of masculinity is what I like to put it as.
Yep. All right, guys, as always, go out and crush your goals.